Okay, so I just got out of watching The Boogeyman, and here's my first reactions to the film. I think this is a perfectly enjoyable horror film. I think there's a lot to enjoy in here for horror fans. I think this film does more right than wrong, but then saying that, I think there's still a few problems that I did have with this film, which I'll address in just a second. But in the meanwhile, let's talk about the positives of The Boogeyman. And the biggest positive that I took away from this film was the characters. I loved the characters in this film. The first act is dedicated to developing on this family and showing that there was a tragic event that happened at one point in time, and seeing how that has affected their state of mind and their everyday, day-to-day activities, like going to work, like going to school, and all of that. And just I really liked seeing this family and seeing just how they function and how that grief is still with them, and how they can kind of continue being like a family and all of that. And I really loved the way that these characters were developed. And one thing that I'm very, I guess, controversial on when it comes to horror films is I'm not a big fan of of high school drama in horror films at all. Most of the time it's pointless. But in this film, I thought it had a statement to say, because a big part of the story of this film is the boogeyman is like this creature that he's like a virus. He once one person's dead, he just instantly goes on to the next, and he just continues growing and growing and growing. And I thought that was something that is kind of shown in the high school part of this film. And once again, the first act of this film, I will go as far to say it is perfect as far as what it executes and what it tells in the setup. I thought it was brilliant. I'm gonna be honest, I thought it was fucking brilliant. But one thing that they do with the high school storyline in here is the event that happened to this family, something that personal and that private. It has somehow got around the school. Someone's heard from someone about this event, and then they've gone on to tell this person, this person, this person, this person, this person, and it has just gone around this school. And everybody looks at her like it's her fault and all of that. And just I think that is something that is so 100% true. I think that is the high school lifestyle. I think especially in this world of social media, as soon as we switch on the TV, we would hear about a car accident. And I think that's how this whole high school drama storyline works for me, is because it is very realistic, and it has something to say later on in the film. It's not just there to to fill the runtime. It's actually there to to kind of develop on our characters more, and leaving the household and seeing how the world kind of views this family, and seeing how they haven't quite recovered. Like in the film, this family, they have to go to a psychiatrist and all of that. And it's just everything that they did with the characters, I loved. It's just, am I saying that these are the greatest characters in horror movie history? No, not by a long shot. But, for a film that, from the trailer, it looks like a jump scare fest, when the film is actually the exact opposite of that. And now another thing I did want to talk about quickly in this review is I think a lot of people are going to be let down watching this film, because when you watch the trailer to it, this looks like a creature feature. And I'm not going to say it isn't. But what I am going to say is that's not the main focus of this film. So, okay, how do I put this? The big theme of this film is grief and them overcoming grief. And so, the journey and the arc that these characters take from the beginning of the film to the end of the film, I really liked that. And that's where the heart and soul of the film is at. Like, the monster is there to, is to please, creature feature fans. And, I do want to talk about the monster, for a second here. I won't give away any spoilers, but, I really liked all of the monster, sequences that we got. I thought there was some amazing suspense, and I thought there was some great tension in the film. I thought they are two elements that this film absolutely nailed. Like, with the sound design, with the camera work, with the lighting, I thought it was all perfect. And there were actually some jump scares that were legitimately creepy. Like, there was this TV one, and because it's set at night, well, not set at night, but set in the darkness, there's a lot of fun you can have, with that concept. And I think the film utilizes that, that fun. When I say that the film is scary, though, to some audiences, to myself, there wasn't anything, in this film that was particularly scary. It was more just kind of, thrilling, I think would be the word. Where you're on the edge of the seat, where you're waiting for that, you're waiting for the payoff of the jump scare to happen, and then, it happens, and then, all that. And, I felt with the jump scares, I went into this film, like, hoping it just wouldn't be a jump scare fest. And, the film is reliant on jump scares, but it's not to the point where it's annoying. Like, I feel like there's a fine line there. And the jump scares, the first couple are really good, but then, after that, it felt like, for a long while in the film, it just felt like it was, jump scare, jump scare, jump scare, jump scare. It just didn't really feel like it was really going anywhere. And, there was this whole, sequence with, with this, chick and, and her friends, like, at her house smoking weed. And it's just like it's this, like, I want to say probably 10-minute sequence, and it's, I don't know, that is something that I feel like you could have cut out of the film, because I don't really think that served a purpose in the film, especially looking back at it. That's something that, definitely you could have removed that. Film would be absolutely no different. So as much as I liked the high school drama, it worked in the first act, but then when it came back in, later on, that's when I felt like it was unnecessary. Because it's just, it's your standard typical, stereotype, horror characters. You have the bitchy one, you have the whiny one. They're all in here. They're all in this film. I enjoyed the ending of this film. I enjoyed the ending for the characters, and kind of what that is kind of meaning for them now going forward. And, I would honestly like to see a sequel just to see where these characters are at in their life. But, this isn't really a character film. This is, character film, fuck. This isn't really a creature film. There we go. This isn't really a creature film. This is definitely much more of a character-centered film. And so I think for a lot of people going into this that are wanting to see the creature, I think you will be pretty disappointed. But if you're going into this wanting to see how this film kind of gets out alive and all of that, I think you're going to have a fun time with it. But, this is just another example of the Babadook, I'm gonna refer it to that because that's a film that promoted itself as a creature feature when that film has almost nothing to do with the creature. The creature is there to resemble, to resemble grief and to resemble, the stress. And in this film, I would say that it's used in a very similar way. And I think it plays a lot with childhood fears. Like the whole, boogeyman, under your bed and all that. And so, I think it plays up the whole fear factor quite well. So, at the end of the day, I really enjoyed this film. I think this film, could have cut, a few storylines out, but for the most part, I had a really good time with this film, and I would highly recommend, that you check out The Boogeyman.